It is a good morning, and oh man, today was a rough one. So I woke up, I looked at the charts, and I had this heavy feeling in my chest because I wasn't really sure what to expect. I mean, I was like hoping that it would go down, but I knew deep down that it took these lows and that it might just continue going up. So it was quite a rough session. I didn't blow my account, so I'm gonna stop right now before it gets any worse. So let's see what I was kind of thinking and what happened. So first things first, we lost just under $400, which is, risk is being controlled, although it is quite a big loss. So as you can see, I took a lot of trades today. The first trade was down here, which was at 40, so 940. So I was really scared for no reason today, and that kind of worked against me. I probably should have taken a deep breath and a step back and just been like, there are other opportunities. You don't have to chase it. Tomorrow there's going to be plenty of things to trade, even in the PM session if I wanted to. But I'm going to focus on discipline and just leave it for today. Let the loss sit with me and evaluate what mistakes I made. So at 9:30, I saw these equal highs and I was like, okay, it's going to run them. So from down here, I was like, okay, I could long it, but we're going to be patient because I'm assuming that after it runs these highs, it's going to run these lows. And that's exactly what it did. So my entry was at 50, 55. So as you can see, 55 is under this low, under these lows. It already went to the target I was looking for. After it cleared these highs, I was looking for it to go here, and I was too scared to short it. I have no idea why. Normally, I feel confident and I'm okay. Like I feel calm, and but today I just my chest was tight. I don't really know why. Um, so here there's a short in this fair value gap. Probably wouldn't have taken this, but I would have definitely taken this. So this is literally the same entry as right over here, except it was just way too late. And yeah, I don't really know why I was waiting for it. Also here, there's another fair value gap that I could have shorted down into this low. And when I saw it run like this, I was like, I know I've already missed the move, but in theory it could keep going lower. So I really just chased it. And this was a pretty bad trade. So then it retraced a little bit up and I was like, all right, maybe it'll go down again. So I shorted this fair value gap and my stop management on this one was not very good. After it does this displacement, usually I draw my stop to break even. So there's the fair value gap I shorted right here, but I let it run all the way to my stop. As soon as it formed another fair value gap, I should put my stop right here at the mean threshold of this order block. So there was another mistake. Like in theory, at least I waited for this to retrace back up here and hold some fair value gaps and stuff. It kind of went a little bit too deep, so it set up the equal highs. So it wasn't a good trade anyway, but at least it was more well thought out than this one. This one was just straight up chasing price for no reason. Because I was just feeling I don't know. I was scared, and then I ran to my target. I was like, okay, now we're gonna sell it for no reason because there's more lows over here. But how likely is it to really run this low and this low and this low and this low in one run? Sometimes it does that, but we don't expect that and we don't hope for it. So this was not a good trade either. Then I shorted it here. And this one, I was in some deep profit. However, as I said, I was being scared, so I only sold one contract. So if I had two contracts, I would have taken one off underneath these equal lows, and maybe one in here. I was definitely thinking of taking it off under here in this fair value gap, but as you can see, I let it go and I let it hit my break-even stop. All of this time I was watching it, waiting for it. I was like fiddling with my stop. I put my stop here at the consequent encroachment of this, which is where I got hit. I was like, okay, well, there's this fair value gap, so I could go up here. But then it made this fair value gap, so I could have just trailed my stop here. And it made this fair value gap, so I could have just trailed my stop here as well. And then right here, this balanced price range, I definitely should have trailed my stop, because when it does this, if it comes back up here, it's definitely not gonna keep going. So yeah, pretty rough, and it keeps going. So at this point, I was like, I switched my bias because it was holding, so it cleared these lows and it was holding fair value gaps. So right here on the 1 minute, it held this. Let's remove these because we don't need them anymore. It held this, and then it held this. I don't know why it just logged me out, but doesn't matter. It held this, and then it also held this, which is also a fair value gap, even if it's really small. The body is closed above it. So I was at this point switching my bias because it held this fair value gap, right? Pretty much underneath this order block to the downside, and I was expecting it to keep going down from here. But it switched up, it switched the order flow, it held this, and then I expected it to go up. So what do? This is in a very deep premium, and there's a fair value gap. I'm buying it. So this could have worked out, but this is not an optimal trade, right? Then finally, we get, well, actually not finally, for the second time, we get a good trade, right? We have, it goes all the way back down into discount, it fills this inefficiency, and it starts respecting bullish order flow. So this BISI, it holds it, and it forms another BISI, and here, this fair value gap, I'm long. My stop is at mean threshold of this order block, and we get a nice run. So I'm waiting for it to clear this high. Well, it goes close to that high, but it doesn't quite clear it. So you guys couldn't see this, but my order was here for my take profit. When it came up here, I closed my take profit order because I was like, well, if it's going to go up here, it's going to keep running upwards, right? So not only did I not have a take profit, but I didn't trail my stop as nicely as I usually do, because I'm on this 5-second chart, right? Waiting for the 1 minute to align with it, and I'm just trying to get one nice run. So it holds this, my stop is down here, then it makes this fair value gap, my stop is this mean threshold now, and it comes down here, almost stops me out, but doesn't because I've placed my stop in a good place. Then runs this SIBI. This is an inversion fair value gap. Usually I'd trail my stop right under there, but what am I waiting for? I don't want to get stopped out because I've already taken so many stops today, so I'm just waiting for it to go straight to my take profit. Then it forms this fair value gap. If it comes down here, I'm not interested anymore. But I don't trail my, so after it starts doing this, I trail my stop to mean threshold. But afterwards, there's another fair value gap and more displacement. So I should be trailing my stop to over here, but I didn't. So this is 95, this is 05. I lost $200 in potential profit right here. That's unfortunate, but still a winning trade. Then it goes down here, and I'm still looking for those highs. Now it's set up nice and equal highs. So that was this run, right? Well, actually, let me check which run is it. This was at 08. So 08. Oh, so it was this run. So it set up this high equal to this high. And then it went down into discount. It went down into discount. And I saw it hold this, and I longed it. This was not a very good entry. It was just a market order. and it ran up here. When it did this, maybe you should have at least put it to break even, but I didn't. So another loss right here. And at this point, I was feeling more confident. I finally regained my mojo. I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm reading price. We're gonna get a good entry. We're gonna hold it. We're gonna manage our stop, and we're gonna book some profit. So at this point, it set up those equal highs here, but it was holding some bearish order flow on the lower time frames, and there were equal lows. So here, 5-second fair value gap, short it, stop above mean threshold, two contracts this time. All of these trades have been on one contract because I was feeling scared and not confident. But finally, I feel like I know what to expect from price. So 2 contracts, boom, right there. And then at least my stop management on this one was good because once it made this displacement, I trailed it to above break even, mean threshold of this whole thing. However, I saw this and I was thinking about partialing. It would have been really nice to get at least one partial off over here, but I didn't because I was expecting it to go all the way down to wherever, I don't even know anymore. But I decided to hold it instead of partialing. And the whole point of me having 2 contracts was so that I could partial, but I decided to let them both go break even. So that's again not very optimal. Here I lost another sell, I think. Yep. So it cleared this high and it started breaking down following bearish order flow, and there was enough space for it to like fill this BISI, and that's exactly what it did. But afterwards, or actually no, I was selling this fair value gap with my stop consequent encroachment of this wick, and it went a little bit higher, so it didn't even let me get off the fill over here, but I probably would have just taken a break even on this regardless. So I actually tried to short this twice, fair value gap here, and this fair value gap we cut through candles, and I tried to short it again with my stop right above the fair value gap. So it barely stopped me out twice, and then it went and it filled this, and yeah, so I could have at least gotten break even on that, but we took some losses. At least my stops are tight, and I knew that these were bad trades, so I went back from 2 contracts to 1 contract. So it filled this in, and then it started going up. So here at this point, I knew it was going to go up, but I missed all of this again. I missed this whole run. I saw the equal highs. I was shorting it in here, but once it held this, I was convinced that it would go up now. But I missed this entire run. I couldn't find a single entry because it went really quickly and it didn't really give me any fair value gaps. You know, if you pixel peep, there are fair value gaps and I missed it. But for example, this one, I would have to put my order right here at the top, and then my stop would be really wide. And that's not the kind of trade that I like taking. I like taking trades where it's consolidating and then it forms order flow so that my stop is tight, but it's still logical. And then if it runs in my favor, I can trail to break even, and usually it goes to my take profits really quickly. So in this case, the stop would have been a little bit wide, but this trade would have still been acceptable, and it would have ran for these highs. So I would have probably taken off, or at least trailed my stop. For example, when it makes this big candle and then it pops this high again, I would trail it to here. So I would have definitely booked in some profit on this run. Then I decide to long it after it's already taken this high, because my analysis is that it might go all the way up to here, the high that was made by CPI. Well, it'll at least go and fill, let's see, it'll at least go and fill this fair value gap. So did it do that? Yes, it did that. And yeah, so I would have taken partials or like break even or trailed my stop or something. But I long it, and it goes and clears this. So as soon as it clears this, I'm like, okay, I like this. I'm still looking for longs. And right in here, I was thinking about buying it, but for once, I thought, okay, let's calm down. Let's wait for it to top this fair value gap instead of chasing this whole thing. Because if it comes down here, it might wake me out even if my stop is below 50% of this. But this would have been a good trade right here in the volume imbalance, and I would have either managed to book partials or at least draw my stop into profit. However, I don't buy down here after it runs, and I'm convinced that it'll go up because it already went up. I wanted it to go down first so I could long it, but there it makes displacement. I'm like, okay, it's holding this. I think I was on the 15-second here. Yeah, so that's this trade with this fair value gap, or this one. I don't even know anymore. So yeah, as I said, today's a rough day. I definitely did not have my emotions in check and probably had no business trading at all whatsoever. But the account is not blown, and this is why I'm still a beginner. But it's also why I'm documenting my journey so that I can learn from my mistakes. And I'm certainly making less mistakes than I was last year, but there is still something to be desired. So I buy it as it's going up here. It hasn't taken out this high yet. It hasn't taken out the buy side from CPI and the fair value gap closure. As you can see, it went higher still. However, it stopped me out right here, and then it displaced again. I tried to long it again, and it stopped me out again. So optimally, I would have waited for this fair value gap to be tapped as it did over here, and then look for longs. So then at least it's in discount. So this would have been a better trade. And then I would be able to partial or break even or draw my stop above after it takes this high. And as you can see afterwards, it breaks down. And yeah, this is pretty much when I started recording the video because I lost this, and now I've just been talking this whole time, but it's going all the way back down. I did see this as a possibility after it clears this highs to go down, but I decided that I'm done for today because I am a little bit too unsure and emotional because for some reason I'm scared today. I've never been scared of taking a trade before, but I think it's because my account is in such big profit that I don't want to mess anything up. So I'm over analyzing and really trying to figure out like when it's going to do something, what it's going to do, and trying to be perfect. And I'm not following the system. I'm not following the plan. Why? Because these trades right here is just me chasing it. This is not part of the plan. After it already takes out the obvious equal highs draw, I should be off the charts, done for the day, whether I took this trade or not. But I took trades afterwards because I thought it could potentially go further. And now it's breaking back down. So after I clear these highs, I did think it might reverse and take at least these lows. And if it even wants further downside, it can come back and take all of this. So yeah, in fact, it might even be continuing. Yeah, so this would have been an okay entry. Let's analyze this right now so that I know what I'm looking at. So I made these three highs, higher high, higher high, higher high. Then it broke down, held this, broke down. This is where I would be looking. So I would be shorting this, and this looks like it would have worked out really nicely. So if I hadn't chased this and thought that I've missed the move already, because on a day like this, there's going to be plenty of liquidity runs because it took so long to take these highs and that it built up more sell side over here. So once it takes them, there is a chance that it will go back down to sweep those. So yeah, if I was a bit more patient, I could have not taken these trades and waited for this whole thing to show me that it wants to go down, and then booked a big fat profit today, which is what I thought that I would be doing. But in the name of discipline, it doesn't really matter if I win today, tomorrow, or the day after that. I still have plenty of time till I have to pay another month for the top step thing, and that's not even the worst thing in the world. So yeah, I need to get comfortable with losing days without blowing my account trying to figure out what it's gonna do. And as you can see, it didn't even take this low. So that's the kind of day we're looking at today. Potentially because yesterday was very volatile, so today it's staying in a little bit more of a constricted range. And this is an example of a high resistance liquidity run. And what I've noticed is that in low resistance liquidity runs, you can chase every next PD array. For example, if the low resistance liquidity run is gonna happen, you have this for value gap. If you miss it, you can long this fair value gap, and then if you miss it, you can long the next fair value gap. But in this run, it didn't hold this next fair value gap into this high. It went back down and messed around and spent more time in this fair value gap. So in low resistance, it would hold every single PD array and just run straight to your targets. But no, in low resistance, yeah, I hope I said that correctly. But in high resistance, like today, it'll come back down, spend more time, and you have to wait for it, and eventually it'll run, or not even run. Eventually it'll come and hit your target, but there's no guarantee of when that will happen. And when it spends a lot of time like this, it'll set up equal lows, equal lows, equal lows. For example, right here, it set up equal lows, and then it took them. But it still didn't run. It came back down, set up more equal lows. So you wouldn't know whether these equal lows, well, you could know because it's closing above this fair value gap. But if you're just looking at the lows and not the PD arrays, you don't know if these lows are going to be taken before or after the run. So it's just difficult to put a stop in a place where you think it won't be hit and you can be confident. And yeah, look, even this fair value gap right here, the body closed above it. So it's not a low resistance liquidity run today. It's not moving as nicely as I kind of want it to, and obviously in the low time frames as well. Left this open but closed above here, so it's really difficult to kind of know where to enter. And after it goes up here, it drops, but it doesn't come back to fill this in. So it's coming back to fill this in now, but you don't know if it's gonna run for the lows anyway, because now there's bullish order flow. So yeah, today is just not the day to be trading, and I am going to accept the $400 loss. So $400 is not terrible. The entire drawdown is 2,000, and there's only 1 month. Well, not like you could continue doing it, but I'm doing this on a low time frame with high velocity, as ICT likes to say. So yeah, today was just a bad day, but $400, you have to remember that that's only like 20 points. So if my stop is 3 points, it's the risk is very low, and most of the time my profits are more than that. For example, my first trade, I got 1.3k, so that was like 60 points or 30 points on 2 contracts, and my second trade was $700 in profit. So my risk is very low, but $400, even though I took so many stops today, that's just one good trade away from being recouped. And yeah, so this could have been a potential entry right here, but once again, it's it held this BISI, it didn't even fill it in completely. Okay, it took the equal highs and then kind of displaced, didn't even show a fair value gap, only a volume imbalance, which is not something that I tend to trust on the lower time frames because often it has no respect for it. But yeah, now it finally took these equal lows. But again, I would have gotten stopped out probably because even after it went down, it came back up to stop people out one last time before running the equal lows. So really, really not nice price action today. So I would have had to, any of these fair value gaps up here would have been fine for shorts. But if I missed that and tried to guess which one would be the final one for these equal lows, I probably would have gotten stopped because, for example, if I tried to short this, I would have gotten stopped out over here above these equal highs. So yeah, tough day. Um, Definitely tradable. I know I'm complaining about high resistance, but this is definitely within my trading capacity. As you saw last time, I managed to read the complex session pretty well, and I called like 4 runs. So even though I didn't take any of them, so today would have definitely been. It could have been very profitable had I just stayed a bit more patient and calm and evaluated the probability of it really going up to this 70 level because I really wanted to chase it into there because I was like, okay, I took a few stops, but I can still make it back if I just catch this range. So it doesn't really matter what PD arrays there are as long as I long it and my stop doesn't get hit. But that's not the right mindset for me. And even now, after these lows have been taken, this fair value gap is not being held. Well, we can wait for it to close, but it spiked above that, making a rather large mohawk, where usually, for example, here there wasn't a very large one, here there wasn't. Like these ones were a lot more clean in the morning, but it didn't offer this run in one go. And I don't like keeping open profit on the table, which is what I did today. And this is why I don't like doing it, because if you leave it open for too long, it'll just get stopped out because I'm not good enough to know exactly where it will reverse. So once it runs like this, I should really be taking profits. So if I long down here, I would have trailed my stop and I would have gotten stopped out in profit. So yeah, this fair value gap is holding now. Yeah, so that's kind of on me, but that's also the kind of style that fits my personality. So that's what my model and method is. So yeah, little bit rough today, but we're gonna come back tomorrow and there's gonna be plenty of opportunities and we're gonna be less scared and we're gonna take good trades, and that's gonna be pretty much it. I think I said everything I wanted to say. Yeah, it's running for these lows now. I'm assuming, but I'm not gonna chase it because previously I would blow my entire account anytime I started losing and whenever I'm not in a good mindset. So if I lost another trade now, I'd be upset with myself, and I'm just going to take this loss, meditate over it, go do something else, and come back tomorrow more focused, hopefully, and less worried about stuff. I potentially this was due to like lower quality sleep or something, or maybe I was feeling a little bit down in the evening, so I really wanted to make profit today, but that's not my motto. My motto is if there's something really obvious, I'm gonna take it, and if it doesn't work out, so be it. But today there was nothing really obvious, it was just me guessing which direction it wants to go. So I'll probably see you guys tomorrow if I don't take the day off. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed and maybe you relate to this struggle, but this is just part of the process. of the learning process, and it's obviously why I'm not already funded, but I know that one day, probably soon, I will be, because it is going better than ever. Um, yeah, I feel more in control of my emotions now that I took the 2 month break in December and January. But yeah, today was just one of those days. Not every day is going to be winning, and you're going to mess it up sometimes. As long as your winners are bigger than your losers and more often, it's going to be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and close the video now because I think I've been talking for a while. And yeah, again, this fair value gap, nice short. After it takes these highs, sets up this trend line, fair value gap right here. This is definitely something that I would be taking, especially when it's got the space to run for these lows. Yeah, so I definitely could have stayed on here longer today after it did this, because yeah, the way that it set up the opening range, it did look like it would come back here, but I just felt really demotivated after it ran like this without me because I couldn't find an entry, and I knew it would go up, so I was really trying to look for an entry to run into these highs, but I missed it, and then I chased it. Yeah, now it's running lower. This would have definitely been easier to trade than the buy side. It's way more clean in terms of lower time frame PD arrays. Even this, after it comes up here, closes in this fair value gap with the breaker, and it displaces lower. Yeah. All right, but we're gonna not worry about it. We're gonna come back stronger. Okay, I'll stop talking now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Smash like, comment whether this happens to you if you're still here. And yeah, see you guys soon. And while I was recording the video and editing it, it ran to my initial morning targets. So now we can even analyze in hindsight because I'm still on the charts after I was editing the video. So my initial expectation was after it ran these highs this morning for it to come down here, but what it actually did is it engineered more equal highs, took them, filled this SIBI, and then took the initial target that I had. So the lows that I was hoping for this morning were in fact traded to. The reason it's these lows is because here there's a fair value gap, so it went all the way nicely into that. So if I was more patient today and didn't take my stops right here and then feel like I really had to get off the charts, I would have seen this and this one, which I would have gotten stopped out on probably because it even went up here one more time. But there were also in this range some lower time frame fair value gaps to the downside, which I would have taken, which I mentioned previously in the video, and even this one all the way into these equal lows. So yeah, today could have definitely been a really nice day if I was on my A game, but I just was not on my A game. So I should have been more patient and waited for more obvious things, because if I had in fact waited, then I would have gotten rewarded with this beautiful run. Even if I took the lowest entry, I would have gotten 50 points, or let's just say the first one, 40 points. Yeah. So I just wanted to include this because it took me so long to record the video and edit it that it even made the run that I was expecting. So that is the takeaway today, that my initial analysis was in fact correct, that it would go lower. My secondary analysis after it held these bullish PD arrays, after it took these lows, that it would go higher, was also correct. And the mistakes that I made was that I tried to long it after it was already in deep premium, after it took these highs, and I should have just been a little bit more patient, because my initial analysis would in fact play out eventually of taking these lows, It's just that it had to take all of this buy side multiple times before it finally broke down. So that's going to be it officially. And I'll see y'all tomorrow.